Hello, my name's Colin Curtin and I'm the main developer of QualCoder. Um, my colleague in Germany, Kai Druger, is also actively developing QualCoder, particularly with the use of artificial intelligence um, algorithms within the program. And as you probably already know, it's a free to use software that works on most platforms, Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. There are some limitations with some of the operating systems. Uh, Fedora, Linux, currently we're having a problem with getting audio and video coding to work. Hopefully over time we might fix that. But I'm on a Windows computer today, and I'll just show you how the 3.7 version works in general, going through the processes similar to what I've done in previous videos. Okay, so to get started here, I just wanted to show you the website for where QualCoder is available. So it's on a GitHub website, github.com /bogle QualCoder. The front page contains all the raw code which you can download and install manually if you need to. There's a lot of files there, but they cover a lot of information. And there's a README file which is displayed underneath. It describes how to install on various computers. For example, you can download executable files, double click to run, and there are installers, which I'll show you shortly. Or if you choose to run this source code that you download here, there are instructions there. So installing from source might suit you better, particularly if you wish to modify parts of the program for your own needs. And the instructions are there for doing that on Windows. Similar instructions for Mac OS and instructions for various Linux systems, including if you wish to cite, and in fact I recommend you do, if you use QualCoder in your published work, it would be great if you cited it as well. The main page. From the main page, you can actually go to the releases on the right-hand side here. I've just got that opened here. The latest release is 3.7, which was made available in July, I think. Yes, 23rd July. We've got two versions that you can use on current Windows. One's a portable zip folder, which I'll show today, and the other is a setup exe with a Windows installer. There are versions for Mac for the two main different types of Mac. There are no executables available for any of the Linux versions at the moment. At the bottom, when errors occur, we'll update errors in this release as we come across them. The main error that occurred was that in the executable files, there was a slight problem with the charts function, and that was updated 2 days later. These are the downloadables for the executables. That's the top four links there. And if you wish to download the source code and manually install that, there are options at the bottom for that as well. There's a wiki, so an instruction booklet, I suppose you call it, instruction web pages, which cover a general introduction about QualCoder, again, installation, and useful things such as how to work in a team, because QualCoder is really best used by one person at a time because it's not a multi-access program. But once one person has done their work, a second person can then come in and do their coding subsequently. And so there's a description here about how to use QualCoder in the team, and a range of other links down the side there with the various coding options, the AI functions, journaling reports. So you can import external code books. You can even use a text file and import the text file as a code book, providing it follows the structure that's listed here. QualCoder tries to implement the interchange format for importing code books and projects from other programs. We can't 100% guarantee that project import will work perfectly well or at all even, but generally generally it seems to work quite well for importing other projects, but it's not fully tested and no guarantees it will work well for you. The other thing to note is that each program, each qualitative data analysis software program organizes the data differently behind the scenes. So an import into QualCoder might look a little bit different or have a different data arrangement than in another program. And conversely, if you export out of this program to load into a different software, the import at the other end may also reinterpret that data in a different way. So I think the main aim of this standard is to do your main coding and analysis in one software program alone. And then if there are additional features or an additional type of reporting style that's available in a different software, then you could try exporting from QualCoder, for example, into this format, import into the other program that you choose to try and make use of that extra reporting option. You download a folder, Win 3.7 Portable, and the folder contains the main executable program, and it also contains what's an internal folder that it refers to, which contains all the other programming bits that it needs to make the program run. So if you download the portable version, just keep the entire folder and keep those two, the folder and the executable together so that it knows where to look for its extra information it needs to run. Excuse me. And you double click on the exe to run. If you do the installed version and install it into your program files, it'll be available there, and you won't need to worry about this folder structure that's here for the portable version. The advantage of an installed QualCoder using the installer is that all the folders and files that make the program work will be unpacked and ready to run, so it'll load up much quicker and run much faster. At the moment, it's actually unpacking and unzipping a lot of folders to create the structure to make it run, and this portable version therefore takes a bit longer to start up. Typically, it'll take around maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds to start up. So while that's sorting itself out, let's minimize that screen. I've got on the side here some files of various sorts to show you some of the capabilities of QualCoder. When documents such as Word documents and PDFs are loaded into the program, the original formatting is lost. So it'll just come in as plain text with various spacings between the headings and so on. So when the program first opens, it looks like this. You have 5 tabs, which show various parts of the program. You have an action log, which gives you some details about your current settings or your current project if one's already open. A manage screen, which is to do with managing files, cases, and attributes and references. A coding screen, which is where you do your coding across your different types of files, whether they're text documents, PDF documents, images, or audio and video. You have a reporting screen, and you have an AI chat screen. At the top, you've got the main project folder where you can create or open projects, editing settings. You can import these various external files into the program, and similarly you can export. The manage menu allows you to manage your files. Cases are a collection of files assigned to one particular topic. Attributes are also known as variables, which can be associated with all these other journals, cases, and files. You can also have references, an import survey, which I'll show you in a minute. Manage bad links. QualCoder needs to link to certain file types to work well, so particularly videos and images. And if they're not correctly aligned, then QualCoder can't use them. Twitter data, there is an option to do importing Twitter data, but I haven't tested that for a couple of years now, and I don't think it would work anymore. I've just coding for various file types. There's AI assisted coding and a few other options there for color and code management. A lot of reports which I'll show later, an AI listing of the options that you can do with artificial intelligence, and help. Contents will open the wiki page that I showed earlier. There's some special functions and menu key shortcuts. Plonk that in there. So you could copy and paste the shortcuts if you want, but there's a whole variety throughout the program. I think some menu key shortcuts may not work quite so well on Mac OS. We haven't tested that thoroughly yet. I'm currently listed as Colin. Often when you first open QualCoder for the first time, you'll have the coder called default, which is an option. And if you want to put in a new coder, you type in a new coder name, maybe it'll be CC, and I'll apply that as the new coder. Language is the language for the overall platform, which can be changed, but you have to reopen QualCoder to make the change occur. Various styles and options to change various aspects within the program. I don't know if I can go down too far down here because I don't want to show you my AI key, but if you've got AI enabled, and in this case I will possibly use Blabador later and show you this. So you have a choice of various engines, and you need an API key to access that AI model. Code text chunk size. With really large text documents, coding the text can make the program run fairly slow, so we can chunk it into smaller character sizes. 50,000 is not bad. So we'll start with a new project. Let's get rid of some of that on the side. We'll call it Pecti project. So now we've got a summary of the project down the bottom here. No cases, no codes, no categories, no files, nothing there at the moment. The project is actually a folder in its own right with a .qda line ending, and within it it stores additional information that it needs. Manage files. We've got various icons which do a lot of different things. So view a file, import, which we'll do now, and we've got this directory we'll look at. I'll import that, hold the control button down and select a few other ones. It might take a minute or two, especially for PDF documents. It takes a bit longer to interpret them and draw them in. So this first one is actually a video from Pexels. So I'll put this up here. I've got double screens, so I have to move things around. We've got no transcript, but we can add a transcript, and we can add speaker names, etc. Down below. So perhaps if I had a new speaker, I would go Control N for new speaker name, interviewer, and so then whenever I want to put the speaker name in, I can use Control 1. If I had a different speaker name, maybe interviewee, so another new speaker, interviewee. And then further down in this transcript, I would probably go Control 2 for the interviewee, and then add whatever they said there. And similarly, you can put in a timestamp. So at the moment, Control T for that. It's at 0, but if I start playing, I've got a dog barking at the mirror. So for a video, the video is associated with the text associated with it. And we've also got a cactus garden picture and various other pictures there. Again, we can move this around. We can resize as needed. We can add a memo. What else can we do? We've got PDFs. So when it imports, the PDF plain text is imported, just shown here. You can also look at the original if you right click and view the original text file. So in this case, it looks like this, but I'll show you another way to view this when we code as well. Okay, so there are various other options. If you don't want to import the file within the project folder, you can link to it. You can create your own text file. And code against that. You can import a linked file into the project, and conversely, you can export a file from the project folder externally as a linked file. You can add attributes. So let's add maybe, is it a plant we're talking about? No, no, no. And these are plants, so we might put yes, yes, yes. With sometimes this table of information can get quite large. There's lots of ways of trimming back the size of the table. We can reorder, can show values like, hide values like, etc. Similarly, across the vertical columns axis, there's a whole range of, you can show all columns, hide particular columns, etc. So we could hide the date column, for example. We can also save our profile of how we've set the table up. So, oh, here it is. So we can save our table display settings with our hidden rows and columns. We can load a display of those, and we can delete our particular display settings. So let's save this one. I'll call it no date. Now if I go back and I'll show all columns as this would normally occur when you open the program up, and we can select this type of table display, which will then revert to this for convenience. We can delete, we can bulk rename all the entries, which is sometimes useful. We can undo a file rename if we've done that once before, and we can select files for deletion. The question mark always opens the Wikipedia page. Cases are often an overarching concept. So like I said before, if it was about the last Olympics and you had a whole heap of files, you could link those files to a particular case. So maybe I'll just add a new case and I'll call it cacti, or yeah, that'll do. We've got no files assigned to this case. A memo, so what's the case about? This case contains everything to do with cacti. So we'll add some files to this case by clicking there, and we could choose which of these we wish to add in. So I'm going to select all the cacti documents and add those selected files to the case. Now I've got cacti with six related files, and if we wanted to view the case, we'll have a lot of information down the side. It's not always great, particularly with PDF documents, because sometimes there's marginalia that comes through quite quirkily like this. But additionally, there's the other documents, which are, if you right click and open, well, it's upside down, I'll have to fix that. There's a way to rotate that, but at the moment I've forgotten the shortcut keys. yes, Control L, um, to show that detail there. So that's cases. Journals, as you're coding and doing your information, you might wish to make notes on the side. So the journals screen comes up separately. We'll create a new journal. I'll call it first journal. Again, we can add attributes to our journals, and we can use those to show, hide, and manipulate the journals as well. We can export a journal to a text document, or we can collate them all and export them as a single text file. And we could search using these buttons here in the search term, which I'll show in a second, I guess. So this is the first journal entry for today. And I might give it a heading. So we've got markdown characters like the hash can can be used just to help make this easier to read. We can also add in bold and italics. So this is important to me. If we put a star or whatever it's called, asterisks around a word or section of words or whatever, it will italicize. And similarly, we can use, tell me if it's double asterisks or it's underscore. Should know this off the top of my head. It's, yeah, double asterisks is for bolding. So there's 3 levels of heading and those as well, which might be of use. The other thing is that when you're looking through your journals, you might want to look for a particular word. So now we can have the option to find the next word, and it highlights it there. Again, if you tick this box, it searches through all your journal documents. We've got attributes, so we can manage our attributes. We've currently got one, which is a plant, whether it's a yes or no type of thing. So again, we can add attributes here, and we can assign them to different this will be a test attribute. It can be character or numeric, and we can assign it to cases, files, or journals. So let's just assign this one to cases. So then when we go back to manage cases, we've got our test attribute there. Manage references, so we may wish to import references. And in fact, I've got a reference list here in the RIS format. Just got to find which icon. So we'll import the references in the RIS format. That is it there. I'll go open. And so the references are imported. So the SX succulent review, which is this one here, we could link it to the SX March 2015 here and press the link button. So this reference ID is linked to that document there. The next thing we can look at is importing a survey. So we've got a survey over here called Survey 789 in Excel format. Excel seems to be the better format to import. You can import from CSV, but sometimes that can be problematic. So we'll select that survey, we'll go open. And so it's displaying what it's found in the Excel. We've got these additional attributes. So we've got person 7, 8, and 9, their age, their gender, their occupation, and a free text column, which we don't want to keep it as a character. This will load it up as an attribute or a variable. We want to actually turn the free text character column into a column for analysis qualitatively. So we'll right click and change it to qualitative. Press OK to import. And then we'll have, these will be imported as cases, and all the details are there. And for each one, the free text information is assigned to a separate file. Um, so it's got the person's identifier from the first column, plus the question title. If we open those up, we can have the details there. Okay, so that's those. Next thing we want to do is do a bit of coding. So we'll code some text. I'll just move this around a bit. So because we've imported a survey, it automatically creates a code that matches the text that was imported. So the free text code is already assigned to the entire text of each of those imported documents from the survey. That may be useful to you. It's certainly useful for some people. It's not something I'm particularly interested in at the moment, so I'm just going to remove that one myself. This is the code area, this bottom screen, and the upper area is the individual files that we're looking at here. And because we're coding text, it's only showing text files. So if we show one of these ID 7, what have we got here? My balcony is brightened with a collection of cacti, so perhaps we'll put a code called likes cacti. This is a random color. You can preset a color using the palette option up here. So we'll select our likes cacti. Highlight that and click on that, and that will assign that cacti spines scare me. Okay. Scary cacti. Highlight that. Oops. There's if you want to extend or shorten these coded sections manually, you can do Shift left or Shift right and Alt left, Alt right. Right click, you can unmark, you can memo the text. So maybe that bit about Rebutia, you want to say this is unique to Rebutia cacti. So that then you've got a memo that gives more information on that bit of text that you coded. Again, if this is particularly important, I might go to one of the shorter documents, maybe the one that found it scary. Because the cacti spines scare me, I'm going to go right click on that and add an important mark because that was important to that person. You can change the code if you don't like the code that you've used. You can annotate sections of text. So maybe there's a unique acronym somewhere. Let's go to the Essex. So for example, an acronym like DNA, if you hadn't annotate that, DNA equals deoxyribonucleic acid. So when you're going through your document and there's terms that you're not initially familiar with or you need to refer to, that would be a quick and easy way to assign some deeper meaning or understanding of what a particular word or phrase or whatever means. And we've got a lot of other options on the screen. So here, actually, I'll go back to one of the other free text ones. We can change the size of what's displayed there, font size. We can search for text. So if we search for the word the, and then we look through, we've got one the here in this document. But maybe we want to find the in all documents, and there's 900 of them. So it will go through and find all of these throughout your documents. What else? You can show annotations, although we don't have any annotations in that file, but we do in the ESR document. So if we show annotations there, it will highlight them in a little window. What else have we got here? You can memo a coded section, but I usually just code the section first, right click and memo. you can show all the memos. So if we've got memos in this document, we've got something on the memo for that coded section in this document. We can do auto coding. I see the word SX branch keeps cropping up, so let's auto code that in this file. So in this particular one that I chose, the text has to match exactly. And we'll do that in this file. I had already highlighted a code, and so it's already gone through and applied the SX branch code to this document. We can also, once we've got a code selected, we can also zoom through and see where in the document this has been utilized. And well, there are various other auto-coding options. You can use a text fragment to auto-code sentences, and you can use special start and end marks to auto-code sections between the start and end mark. There's an undo. There's also regex for exact text and sentences. Regex is a bit tricky to use, so I won't cover that in much more detail. There's a side pane. So if you had particular codes that you've got here, it'll give you examples of how you coded before. And the other button shows a project memo. So if you've got an overarching research question or something like that, you can have it in your project memo and you can quickly refer to it as you're coding away on the side. That refers to the help button. This you shouldn't use, but you can delete all codes within the document. I think that's the main things on this page. Oh, you can edit text. Let's do a shorter file. Edit text is not always working well. There are risks that it will cause problems. So try to have as good text as you can before you start coding, or even before you start importing it into this program. So I'm going to edit text on this document. Is there any errors in there? The word convenience isn't correct there. I'll try and improve the spelling. So edit text. And it shows which sections are already either coded or a part of a case. So the red is it's coded. The green is that all that document text is a part of a larger case. So, however, isn't correct. I have to learn how to spell. Convenience. The convenience of a sunny balcony is brightened. So that's improved the spelling. And then we can revert back to the main document and hope that it has interpreted it correctly. But in this case, it hasn't. It's lost the coding that I had before. And this is the risk with using this edit text function, that this will sometimes occur, particularly with text that's coded towards the end of the document or text that's coded at the start of the document. So I do recommend that you do your editing. I'll try it again here because this isn't quite to the end of the document, to show you how it might work better. The big cacti spines. So in this case, it's worked fine, but just occasionally, particularly if it's coded right to the end of the document, you're going to have problems. So use that as a last resort, and perhaps save before you do that as well. Coding images. So let's pick an image. I don't know, that one will do. It's upside down. No, I'll stick with another one then. What have we got there? Oh, they're all sideways or upside down. You can rotate clockwise. There we go. I might pick a new code and I'll select my code and highlight where it needs to be. That's a bit hard to see, so I might just change the code color, which is here somewhere. Maybe a bright yellow. That's better. We can memo again. So when we mouse over it will tell us more details. And additionally, we can do what am I trying to say? You can highlight these and export them in a different program. So if I right click, um, we can highlight this area in grey and it will load up a image program with this showing in grey. It'll just take a few minutes, or moments I should say. Just got to move that into the other screen. So the coded area is now highlighted. Again, you might have to do your rotation thing here. And that's an option. There's grey, there's blurred, and there's solarized, which is another quirky option. Coding audio and video. We'll pick this one here. Just adjust the screen a bit so we can see everything. Okay. So we've got a dog. If we play, we can see the dog's barking at the mirror. Maybe we want to code, we can either code the wording, the transcript, and we can also, this is not a well put together transcript, but you can actually scroll the transcript while playing and it will look for these in order transcript codes and jump through appropriately as it goes along. And the other thing you can do is you can actually highlight sections of, like code the actual video itself. So maybe we'll start coding there. We'll start segment at 17 seconds. We'll keep playing. We'll stop there at, oh, oh, sorry, it's not 17 seconds. It started at 3 seconds, and we'll keep playing just to maybe there, and we'll end our segment. So we've got a segment ready to go from 2 seconds to 5 seconds. We'll assign that to a new code. Call it dog playing. Right click on the code and assign the segment to the code. So that segment from there to there is the dog playing. So we can play the segment. And we could do other things. We can edit positions, add an important mark, memo it. And I'll show you more on that later. Okay. And there are various other options with the sound settings and speed, etc. Next, we'll do code PDF. Now, you can't edit PDFs once you've imported them, as the plain text has to match up perfectly for this function to work well. And it's not a perfect rendition of the PDF. So the background imagery of the PDF will be present, but the overlying text is generated within QualCoder, and so the fonts and size and style of the font won't match perfectly. So there'll be a bit of the quirkiness there. Also, with these PDFs, it takes a while for the program to read through the PDF to render it. And you might have even noticed that when you've opened up any PDF with a PDF reader. Sometimes it takes a while to load up properly. So I'll just click the first one. We'll wait a little while. And you can see how the rendering isn't perfect. If we go through to another page, let's make that a bit bigger. And you can see how it looks. It's trying in this middle section to represent the original document. And it's not terrible, but it's not perfect either. There's the bit that we coded earlier in the plain text, which is shown on the side here. We can still code plain text. We can also code the text boxes within a PDF. So text box, PDFs don't display text nicely. They display them in these box-like components. And we can do it that way. We can also adjust the sizing of the font to maybe make it look better. It just depends on the how the original font was used and displayed. We can also force all text to be black, and we can also just remove the images or conversely remove the text. So there's various options to move through the pages or go to a particular page For example, this has got 16 pages. Let's go to page 10. And we have got this page loaded up here. We can also export an image of the page. Oh, we can resize, so we can zoom in, zoom out, which sometimes is useful. You can readjust the color schemes of your codes by organize the codes. This is best to back up your project first, but actually before I do that, let me just go to here. In your coding area, you can add categories, and you can quite literally drag and drop your codes into the category, or conversely, pull them out of the category. You can add more categories, you can kick them out, or you can put them inside another category if you need to. You can even move codes within categories, etc. Now later on you might wish to completely shuffle this around. Back up your project first before you open the code organizer. We'll load our code tree up into all of it. And you can see how it's listed like this. And we can do lots of things. We can remove that category from the other category. We can merge codes together. We can link a code to a category, maybe put that to that category, etc. That is the majority of that there, I think. So reports. But at the simplest level, you've got three screens on the left. The bottom is your codes. The middle is cases if you need those. You don't always need cases in a project. And the top is the files. So we'll select, right click and select all files. Right click and select all codes. Run the report. And all the coded sections will be displayed below. I think we even did a audio video, and we can even view in context. We can actually play this separately from here. Another thing we can do here is maybe we only want the important coded things. We only marked one with important. We can do statistics, which gives you extra statistics across the codings that you've done. We can do text context. So we'll get the before and after text of the coded bits that we've coded, and the main coded segment is in a different font, whether it's bolded or italic or whatever it might be. For some of these documents, we had references linked to them, so we can add that in as well. So for some of these coded bits that we did, we've got the reference listed there above. That can be useful. We can do a matrix where we can do various options such as a file by codes, files by codes, so we'll show you that. Choose an option, codes by file. So we'll get an extra screen displayed. That's the regular screen you have. And this extra matrix shows your codes across the top and your files down the side. So that can be useful, as you can see there. And this matrix can be exported to an Excel. Some aspects won't come through, such as the images. And if I just get rid of that for the moment, we can also export our main report in various formats. And I'll do one of those now. I'm going to choose ODT can be opened with Word. Open document text is what that's called. So we'll try that first. Test 1, for example. This is just opened up here. Open that in Word or LibreOffice Writer if you use that. And it's basically a representation of the report that was exported. Whoops, clicked on the wrong thing there. Okay. We can also, particularly if you're using audio and video, export it to HTML, and again we'll call this call it test B for some reason. Right, so we've got two files exported. One is the HTML, and one is a related folder that has to go with it, because we've got media, we've got images and audio video, so that has to be associated with the file. So we'll have a look. I'll get rid of that one. We've got the HTML, and we've got the associated file up here, which contains the related media for that file. So when we open up this report export, it opens up in our web browser, and it's very similar to the other report. It's got all the parameters, it's got all the various coding sections here, but what's different in this HTML report is we can actually have the video and play our video segment. So that's just for your interest there. There are various other reports which you can work through. For example, simple ones might be a file summary. You can click on the file and it summarizes the file for you and what codes have been applied. A code summary, again, you can pick on a code like Rebuti has been applied 4 times, gives you some details there. What else? We've got code counts by file and case. We'll select category, maybe that one, and we'll select all files. And then we get this code counts by file and code, and we click on them for more detail. Code relations, code co-occurrence. We might not have much in this, but it will show where. Actually, I'll set one up just to show you that. Likes cacti, and then maybe that's there where it overlaps a bit or is borderline to it. We've got a bit of an overlap in that section there. So that's what's called code co-occurrence, if they're adjoining or overlapping. And we've got that one instance now, and we click on that, we can get the detail about where the codes are and the overlapping of it. And this can be selected for files, for codes, file attributes, categories, and it can be exported to a file, Excel file. There are various other ones there. I won't go through them all now. Charts, again, this is in previous videos, but there's a range of charts you can utilize. Code frequency, for example, as a pie chart, something like this. Sunburst and tree maps. Let's see, we do sunburst, see how that goes. So with the higher level categories are in the central circle, and the subsequent categories are further out, and the codes are hanging off the end there as well. Got various other charts there, and some filters to minimize or change what you're displaying. For example, if you've got thousands of codes, but you want to choose a particular category, you just select the category, or a particular file, or a particular case. This may not work well because there's not much coding, but you can look at a heat map of codes by file, and you can see where certain codes are more frequently applied. For example, the Rebutia code was applied far more frequently in that document which is talking about Rebutia. This can be useful for interviews with people if someone's particularly emphasizing or talking about a particular topic, so you can see the highlight of that code compared to, say, other interviewees, for example. What else? I think that's the main things I want. Database queries, this is more technical, but you can, each of the main tables down the side here details what data is stored in the database. At the bottom are a list of pre-prepared database queries, which you can then use for however you need to use it. This one's a fairly complicated one. We'll run that and see what happens. Nothing, which is fair enough. Case text, so we'll get all the case text. So we've got And there are various other ones as well. Maybe the coding table. We could just get this like this. Um, and if you know how to run SQL, you can write your own queries and run them in here and save and load them as well. So that's the main things that I wanted to show there. While we're here, I'll just quickly look at special functions. I haven't got the right documents ready to show you how these functions work. But for example, if you've got a blog post of text which you've coded, you could re-import the same text file to update that blog post if the blog post has been extended with further comments later on. So you need to first select your text file within your project you want to update, and then select the replacement file to replace the original one and hopefully keep the original coding that you've done as well. Similarly, you can also do a merge project into this project. So the currently open project, you can draw another project into it and pull across any new codes and categories, any new documents that are coded, etc., into one project. But again, for these functions, you do need to back up your project first because there's a potential for these options to ruin your current project.